Some of my key concerns when joining Autism 360 was the fact that it was going to be completely just based on telehealth and it was going to be remote. I've been someone who's worked, directly with my clients for a very long time, for 11 years. Coming from the UK where everyone has easy access to services, I was a little bit concerned about that. But, talking to Ash and talking to the team and kind of understanding that in Australia, if you don't have telehealth services, there are a lot of people that have absolutely no service at all. Kind of understanding that kind of alleviated that concern a little bit. And I guess I was also a little bit wary about working remotely and not having a sense of culture, because I worked in some really great workplaces where I'm still friends with all my colleagues, even people I've worked with about 10 years ago. But that hasn't been a problem. I feel really connected to a lot of the people I work with, so that's been great. As someone who works with behavior, it's really important to see behavior firsthand, because it's just first-hand information then instead of coming through other people. But it's not the case, and some sort of service is better than no service at all. And it's really being rural shouldn't be a disadvantage to people. So yeah, I think it's a really good service, especially for rural clients. My experience of joining Autism 360 in the first few weeks, it was actually really, really good. I was pleasantly surprised at the amount of support that I got, especially from the operation manager and supervisors. My first week, my operation manager saw me in the morning and in the evening just for a quick catch up about the day and how everything was going and if I needed anything. And, because I was doing a lot of training, just to go through any questions that I had about that as well. And if he couldn't answer them, the operations manager would find someone that could. And that was really useful. There wasn't a moment where I felt, oh gosh, I don't know this and I don't know who to ask as well. That was really useful. And I didn't feel like when some companies you do that, you feel pushed to get ready as quickly as possible. Whereas with Autism 360, I really felt like they wanted to take your time in getting to know the system so that when you did start seeing clients, you were completely ready to offer the best service possible. And that is important to me as well. I do feel really connected with the team, just because there are so many opportunities to talk to people. I was very lucky that I started with another behavioral coach. And so because we were going through the same process, I feel really connected. But using Google Chats to chat with the teams, there are so many different chats that people use, and people put resources, ideas in there, or just say hello or wish people happy birthday. And I think that's really important and it's really good. You don't necessarily miss out on the water cooler time you would normally have being in an office. So that's been really useful. And I think in terms of the mission, if you look at the NDIS and where it's going, it's really trying to promote developing capacity in parents. And I think that's what Autism 360 does really well. And that's something that's missed out by a lot of professions, especially because we spend all our time really working with the children directly. And sometimes we don't have the time to work with parents. Whereas now we are building capacity for parents and, helping parents understand the things that they should do with their children and also why they should do it. And having that time is really important. There is value in both. Obviously, there's value in face-to-face, definitely. That cannot be replaced. But there's also value in our service as well. It's just, I think they work really well together as well. And then just providing parents with the knowledge, it's just so key, because sometimes therapists tell parents to do particular things, but they don't have time to explain it. And those things don't, happen because the parents don't see the value of doing something really small, but that might be really useful. But, we get the chance to kind of sit down and explain and talk about it. And a lot of my parents, the ones that I've worked with, have said that's been really valuable. Yeah, like I was talking about, like one of my clients was just could not understand or recognize when their child would dysregulate. So we were like, okay, let's just go through the stages of crisis. And we went through the stages and I helped her kind of look to see what behaviors that each stage represented for their child. And the next week she was like, that was just so useful. That, that really gave her a good way of understanding her child, and she used those de-escalation strategies that she already knew, but in the right time. I think it's really great, the resources. As a clinician, most of the time we make our own resources, and even when we make the resources, we just do the resource. We don't have time to write a little blurb explaining how to use it. We do it, verbally, but having that, our Autism 360 resources, you have the resource, but there's also an explanation on how to use that resource. So important, and I think that is so important and so useful, because parents can't remember everything you talk about in a session. And sometimes when they have a resource printed out, it is really useful for them to just quickly read it and remind themselves of what they talked about with the therapist. The platform is great as well, because all the information they need is there. The tasks that the therapist has set up are there. The resources are there. The parents can see the session notes, so that reminds them things they talked about in each session as well. And it's also good to know that it's continually improving as well. Like with every system, there are bugs and there are things to improve. And the company does seem to really listen to the therapist in making improvements. Yeah, I definitely feel supported by my team leaders and supervisors. Again, I think it's two different fields, the operation side and the clinical side. And my supervisor is great with all that kind of clinical information, and us going through particular clients if I have any issues, or just as even being a sounding board for all my ideas or giving suggestions. And from the operations side, it is really useful having the operations manager and everyone else who supports me, just to get your head around the new system. And you always have questions, and even with the handbook, sometimes you forget. So it's just useful. It's been useful, the amount of support I've gotten. And what I really love is that most of the time there's videos on how to do something, or if you ask a question from someone, they quickly make a little video and they send it on to you. And that's just so useful. My message to practitioners considering a role at Autism 360, it's a great place to work, especially if you're an experienced practitioner who's had a lot of experience, especially in the public sector. It offers new challenges and new ways of adapting and using the knowledge you already have, and that's exciting.